thing is happening. Make sure that we're hitting all the different platforms live here. That looks good right there. Hopefully you're hearing me loud and clear. There you go. Very cool. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Anyway, I just want to jump on. It's the day after Christmas. If I haven't told you personally already, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope yours was great. We had a fabulous time around here. Just a real low-key kind of Christmas. Nothing big, nothing awesome to report. I didn't really need much, so I didn't really ask for anything this year. Nothing out of the ordinary or nothing odd. One of the things I got that was kind of cool was I got this 8-inch Gretsch Catalina Birch Tom to go with my Catalina Birch kit that I used to be the kit that I teach on, but now it's been replaced by a Gretsch Renowned kit. And this Gretsch Catalina kit is very quickly becoming my rehearsal kit. So instead of taking one of my new classic kits over for this new Elton gig and doing rehearsals on it, I'm going to be leaving this Catalina Birch kit there at the production place and using that for rehearsal. So trying to duplicate the setup there, and this Tom gets me one drum closer to that. So if you haven't tried the Gretsch Catalina stuff, it's remarkably good for a lower priced, I'd say mid-priced drum set. Really, really good kit, whether you get the birch or the maple, or they've got several other flavors of that. It's not a commercial for Gretsch, although it probably should be, considering how much of their stuff I've got. Anyway, I wanted to jump on today, besides wishing you a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. I want to, I've got my sweats on today, my gym clothes, but I didn't go to the gym. And keeping with our theme from the other day, I've been getting into the practice of, even on days when I'm not able to go to the gym, putting my gym clothes on and doing that whole same sort of walk that I would normally do up until actually going to the gym. So I've got certain days that I've got time for the gym. I've made time for the gym, not got time. I've made time for the gym. There's other days I don't, but I still have this ritual of putting the sweats on and get myself ready so that it's just easier to do when it comes to the days I am working out. So today's one of my days where I've got too much other work to go and do that. So I'm just eating a ton of food in my gym clothes. Anyway, if you hadn't seen the other videos that we put up about that, about starting your New Year's resolution stuff a lot earlier, go back and find them. You can find them easiest on my YouTube channel, brianstevens.com/YouTube, which you may be there already. But today I'm talking about something that I talked about with my son yesterday. So I'll give you the backstory. Hopefully he's not going to watch this. He's not going to see this. So I can tell you, it's just us, just me and you. You won't tell anybody if I tell you this. Anyway, so I was talking with my son. Oh, I can't use that shot today. I need to fix that one. I was talking with my son about a girl that he was wanted to go out on a date with, and I asked him for an update on that. So there's a girl that comes into the store where he works. He's spent a lot of time just having conversations with her and kind of playing get to know ya. And he had actually asked her out on a date. And apparently they went on that date, and it was not one of the better things he's ever experienced. In fact, he didn't really want to talk a whole lot about it. But, cut to the crash. I basically just told him, I said, look, man, the important thing is that, number one, you asked and you got the response, and then you followed that up with actually going on the date. That was the important thing. Whether or not it was going to be a great date, that wasn't what was important. The thing that was important was what I called the at-bat. I said, it's kind of like baseball, man. With dating, you can't be real precious with these things. You just have to ask, and if you get a no, you get a no. If you get a yes, you go on the date. If the date's fabulous, then maybe you'll go on another one. If it's not great, then you know that person probably wasn't for you. It's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of how well that they fit with you. And And that's really what the dating thing should be. And as we're talking, I started thinking it's actually a really good analogy for life in general about how we need more at-bats in life in general. And so what I'm going to, in keeping with the things that I've been live streaming for you the last few times, I want to encourage you going into 2021 to set a goal of getting more at-bats. And what do I mean by that? Well, basically what I'm talking about is making more attempts at anything. And we make a lot of to do about success and failure, both in life, in your job, in so many of the things that we experience, that I think that we really miss the point that it's really the at bat that we should be focusing on that's the more important thing, because without those, we don't really go forward into the next thing. So I broke this down for him, and I wrote a few, ran in the other room and wrote some of this stuff down so that I wouldn't forget it. And I sort of broke it down in stages. And the first one that I told him was, you start in the batting cage, and the batting cage is really where you're practicing all the steps that you need to go through to learn to be successful, whether it's successful in life or successful in a relationship or successful in a business or successful in school or whatever. The batting cage is where you learn all the things that you're going to need, how to hold a bat, how to swing the bat, how to move, where to place your feet and where to move them, how to time your swing with different kinds of pitches, how to look at, there's all these skills that are really necessary to being a great hitter in baseball. And all of that starts in the batting cage. You can't just decide that you're going to go into a game and you're just going to start swinging at pitches and have never been up to the plate before in more of a practice scenario with the pitching machine that's going to consistently throw you the same kind of pitch at the same kind of speed, at a speed, maybe even a lower speed that you can hit. There's some gigs that I take, especially if it's something that's a style of music or a kind of band that's a little outside of my purview, maybe completely new to me, something that I need to work on in terms of a style or a type of music, I may take some gigs that don't really pay a whole lot of money, and maybe even playing with players that are not great players in a style that's a lot less familiar to me, because I treat that like a batting cage. This is my opportunity to take what was in my batting cage of the practice room in getting ready for the gig and move it into the batting cage of that gig. And I would never tell people that I was treating their gig like a batting cage, but in some cases it is. And so in the batting cage, after you've learned all of those different things that you need to learn to be able to hit some pitches with a fair amount of consistency, then you're testing out those abilities that you've got against a lot of different scenarios. The great thing about a pitching machine is you can vary the speed, you can vary the spin to a certain degree, you can vary the placement of the pitch. You can work on pitches away from you and pitches close to you and pitches that are high and pitches that are low. You can be very purposeful in setting up these scenarios in the batting cage where you can test your ability to hit different kinds of pitches. In doing that, you can spot some of your flaws. For me, when I did play sports as a kid, my coaches and my dad, they always told me about dropping my elbow before the swing instead of just staying high and swinging through. I would always really drop my elbow and kind of clutch before I would swing the bat at the ball. And so that was a flaw that in the batting cage, I could deal with that. I could work with that. I'd have a coach that would point that flaw out and allow me to be able to spot it and work that problem out. You can spot those flaws. You can correct your processes, and you can correct your form. And you can feel like what it feels like up until the point of actually making contact with the ball. You can feel what it feels like to miss entirely. Hey, good to see you, Jason. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, buddy. You can feel what it feels like to actually make contact, because you've actually got to deal with what happens when I do actually make contact with this ball. I've got to follow through with that bat. I've got to feel the vibration that happens in my hands when I actually do make contact with the ball with that bat. It's a sensation that you're not going to get any other way, and you can't wait until the game to feel that sensation and deal with that sensation. That is what the batting cage is for. And once you spend enough time in the batting cage and enough time in practice, then it's time. Thanks for that, Jason. Thanks, man. It's time for you to move from the batting cage. And we don't just go straight from the batting cage right to the plate. In the actual game itself, there's this little spot off to the side where we have to stand right before it's our turn to bat. They call it the on-deck circle. For those that don't watch a lot of baseball, not that I watch a lot of baseball these days, but I'm familiar enough with it, that you move into the on-deck circle right before it's your time to bat. There's one person in front of you. While they're doing their at-bat, you're in that on deck circle, and that's your time to warm up and loosen up. You grab the bat, you put some of these donut weights on the end of this thing. You're swinging the bat, you're getting the muscles loose. You're doing some things that help you to get loosened up and prepared in your physical nature to be able to go to that at bat. But you're also preparing your focus. You don't really see people, for the most part, that are sitting in the dugout and then they just walk straight out to the batter's box. They've got to hit that on-deck circle first. Part of that is your opportunity to take time out and get your focus before you get into that heightened experience of being in the batter's box. And so while you're there, you're really you're experiencing all the things that the person in front of you is getting to experience. You're getting to dip your toe in a little bit, and you're getting to hear the roar of the crowd and the cheers or the boos that are there. You're getting to hear firsthand the sounds that are happening out on the field. You're getting to hear things at a closer distance than if you're in the dugout, like the slap of the ball in the catcher's mitt. You're getting to experience a lot of those things that you're going to have to deal with when you get into the batter's box from the on-deck circle. It's your opportunity to dip your toe in. There's a thing called immersion therapy. A lot of times when people have some sort of phobia or some sort of thing that they need to overcome, instead of doing things in steps, if you're afraid of spiders, maybe the first thing that you got to do is look at a picture of a spider. And then after you look at enough pictures of spiders, then you actually look at video of spiders, and then you see a spider. That's a step-by-step way of getting over phobia. But there's this other thing called immersion therapy, where you basically just, if you're afraid of swimming and afraid of water and afraid of the pool, just jumping in the pool. It might be in 3 feet of water, but the idea is to get directly in the pool. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go straight into the water. And even if it's just up to your neck, you're there in a somewhat safe zone where you can be in the environment and not have to worry about drowning. Immersion therapy is really a great way for a lot of people to get rid of some of their fears and phobias. And being in that on-deck circle is sort of an immersion therapy. It's slightly safe. You don't actually have to swing at the pitches yet. You don't have the pressure of being in the batter's box, but you have a lot of the other parts of the experience that a batter has when you're there, right there in the on-deck circle, and you're swinging that heavy bat. That's the other thing, is a lot of times when you're in that on-deck circle, you're putting something into your process that actually makes it harder for you to do one of the things you need to do. So sometimes in that on-deck circle of life, maybe we load up our lives with some weighted donuts that will take us through that warm-up process and allow us to be able to work on some things and to get loosened up with a heavy bat. And the on-deck circle is great for that. Now, the thing about all this process up to this point is so many people in life, they either stay in the batting cage or they stay in the on-deck circle. And they get enough of everything that you would want to experience about being a real hitter in a real baseball game, but they never actually take the next step. They never actually walk up to the plate and they never actually get into that batter's box. But that is the next step in this whole process. It's your opportunity to take everything that you've learned, everything that you've practiced, and actually put it into the actual act of doing. We talked a lot in the last couple of times about doing, not just talking about something, not just writing about something or discussing it with your friends or thinking about it in your brain, but actually doing. Doing is what makes you what you are. If you're a drummer, you're not a drummer because people pay you for gigs. You're a drummer because, one, you own a drum set, and two, you sit down at some point regularly and play that drum set. Same way with guitar, same way with recording, same way with knitting. You're a knitter if you own the things to knit and you sit and make sweaters or hand warmers or whatever else that you can make knitting. It's not that they have to be great gloves or great mittens or great hand warmer things, or they don't have to turn out great. But you're doing the thing. You're a knitter because you knit. So you got to get into that batter's box to be a batter. Up until then, you're a batting practicer. And so you got to get into that batter's box to be able to actually take the opportunity to take all those things that you learned and put them into the actual act of being a batter in a baseball game. And the great thing about once you get into that batter's box, you realize pretty quickly that you have the ability to pick your pitches. You don't have to swing at everything that's thrown at you. There's a lot of things about being a discerning hitter that require you to see the pitch and sometimes make an instantaneous decision about whether or not you're going to swing at it. It's not just the swinging at the pitch that makes you a batter. You stepped in, you got your footing, you held your stance. All of those are parts of this process. And then you make a decision. Am I gonna swing at this pitch, or I'm not gonna swing at this pitch? You can pick the pitches that you swing at. And a lot of your success, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in business, whether it's with family, a lot of it is picking the pitches that you're going to decide to swing at, or picking the pitches that you decide to let go by you. That's just as important. So there's this one little time as the pitch is coming at you that you've got to make a decision, sometimes in a split second, whether you're going to swing or you're not going to swing. And for me, in business, there's an uncomfortable place when it comes time to make the decision as to whether you swing or you don't. Every swing is a calculated risk, the way I look at it. It's not just risk. It's not just something that you didn't think about, something you didn't plan for, something that you didn't have scenarios for in preparation to actually make the swing. No. There's an uncomfortable moment just as you're getting ready to swing where you're making that decision. Is this something that I'm going to do? Is this something I'm going to follow through with? And what you really are doing in that moment is you're getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. As that pitcher takes his stance and he settles in and he and the catcher have decided, what pitch is going to be thrown, there's this uncertain moment. What's about to come at you? How are you going to react to it? And then even as the pitch is coming over the top, or if it's a sidearm guy who's coming around the side, there's an uncomfortable moment when all of the action is in play and you still don't really know if you're going to swing yet. There's this uncertainty about what's coming at you. And then just as you start to see that ball come at you, there's an uncertainty. Am I going to swing or am I not going to swing? It's not until the bat starts to move that you're truly committed to that decision. So you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in all of that. But there's also the uncomfortability of the crowd. It's the uncomfortability of that point in time in the game. Maybe it's 2 outs, 2 strikes, 3 balls, and the bases are loaded, and you're 3 runs behind. A grand slam home run would win the game for you. And all of a sudden you feel that pressure. There's an uncertainty. Am I going to be able to execute and at least get a base hit so we can get something in? Am I going to hit a grand slam? Am I going to strike out? There's all this uncertainty. You got to be comfortable with that. You got to be able to sit in that batter's box and be totally comfortable with being uncomfortable in those choices and those decisions, and all that's swimming around your head. There's people screaming at you. There's coaches screaming at you. There's other players screaming at you, and it's always not nice things. You've got to be totally comfortable with that. And so in that uncertainty, you've got to realize that even with your best effort, your outcome may not be what you planned for it to be. Even with your best effort, the outcome of this particular at-bat is always uncertain. You know what you'd like to happen. You know what you would like the result to be. You'd like to hit the grand slam and win the game. You'd like to, you would like to do something that's going to make a huge effect on what the outcome of this particular game is, but that may not be the only option. It may not be the only positive option. Yeah, sure, you may strike out. That's always a possibility, even with the best hitters. You may strike out. You may walk. You may let enough bad pitches go by that you get a base on balls and you walk. You may hit the ball. You might actually make a connection with the ball and hit a fly ball out and lose the game for everybody. You may hit a little dinker right into the outfield and score one run, and it didn't make up the deficit, but it certainly moved you down the progression towards a win. I'm trying not to mix my metaphors with football and baseball. So, but even if you make contact, and that's the thing in business that a lot of people don't realize, people want to judge business by success and failure alone. But there's varying degrees of success. There's varying degrees of failure. And just because something's not a grand slam, not just because something's not a sure enough bona fide home run, doesn't mean it wasn't a successful business. Doesn't mean it wasn't a successful try at something. So there's this real uncertainty you've got to get comfortable with, that in your at-bat, no matter if you put all of your training there, no matter if you put all of your time and your energy and your resources and your powers to make quick decisions, to make decisive decisions, no matter if you put all those things together and line them up in the correct way and you make contact with that ball, still may not get a successful hit out of it. There's plenty of other things that can happen. At best, you hit a foul ball and you get another chance to swing. At worst, it goes right into somebody's mitt and the inning's over. So a lot of this is this getting into the batter's box is really dealing with all of those things. And the thing that I find as I take more at bats, what I realize is that this at bat that I'm on right now is not the only at bat that I'm going to get. That's the other thing that we do a lot of times with our at-bats is we look at them as being all win or all lose. And, with especially creative careers, that song that you write or that production that you're working on, that thing you mix, that drum track that you do, whatever your particular vocation is inside of music or inside of creativity, if you're a painter, that next painting that you paint is your next chance to get it right. It's not your only chance to get it right. And I think that when we take the preciousness out of those at-bats, all of a sudden it takes some of the pressure off of us so that we can think a lot more clearly, so that we can have access to what we're able to do a lot more readily. And we're able to pull all of our resources together because we're in a calmer state. The weird thing about being at bat is that if you're lost in all of the stuff surrounding you and it's just swirling around you and you can't get your composure, you're gonna choke because it's all overwhelming. But if you realize that this is just another chance, this is another opportunity for me to do the thing that I've been doing. If it's a gig in an amphitheater for 1,500 people, that's just another at bat. That's not the gig that's gonna make or break the rest of your life. It's just another at bat, and you're either going to strike out, you're going to walk, you're going to hit a nice solid base hit, you're going to do some other thing like a sac fly or bunt or something like that that's going to move the game along. You may hit a home run, you may hit a grand slam. You don't know. All you know is that you got to bring all that you're able to do and all of the cognitive resources that you have in you at this moment, and just bring your best self to it. Bring everything that you have and hope for the best outcome based on whatever the pitches are that are thrown at you. Because you don't get to really choose your pitches as they come at you. You just get to choose which ones you swing at. So, in thinking about this idea that you get more than one at bat. There's no one at bat that's going to completely revolutionize everything about your life. People think of making it, and people think of these things as being all make or break. This next gig may determine the rest of my life. Most of them don't determine the rest of your life. That next recording session, that next track that you play on, that next thing that you mix, that next thing you sing on, the next concert that you do, odds are that's not going to be the one thing that changes everything for you. Because it's not a singular at-bat that wins the game for you. There's a much longer game that's being played. You can hit a home run in the second inning of your game and still lose by the ninth inning. You could do something extraordinary early in your game, and through confluence and circumstance, by the end of the game, lose by a large margin. In baseball, the other team in the seventh inning or the eighth inning, they may go on a streak and score 12, 15, 20 runs. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. But I hit a home run in the second inning. You still lost. There's a lot more that is going to go on besides your one hit. So you got to realize that one at-bat and that one home run or that one strikeout isn't the entire game. It's one little piece of a much longer game that you're playing. And in that, sometimes you make choices about what you're going to do with your at-bat that to other people may seem like a failure at the time. Or in the minds of some people, it may seem like a compromise. I talked to a friend the other day about an opportunity to go on the road and do some cool stuff. And my friend said, look, man, I got really young kids. And as much as I would love this opportunity, I just, I can't do that right now. My kids are young. I want to be around my kids. And, being out on the road a whole bunch isn't an option for me. I would love it. I would love to play that many gigs with you. I'd love to go and travel and see all these great places. And, to anyone else, especially if you don't understand the long game, that might seem like a really dumb move. Just like when a coach goes to a batter and goes, hey, I need you to hit a sac fly for me. I need you to hit that thing as far and as long as you can get, but I need you to hit it in a way that gets that guy on third base home. He's the one that's going to score. You're not going to be the one to score. There are choices in life that you make that might be your bunt or your sacrifice fly, your equivalent of it. And to the outside world, that's only looking at their metric for what success is, the fact that you hit the ball and fly it out would seem like you failed. But you're playing a different game. You're playing under a different set of circumstances. You're picking your intention with that. And the fact that you hit that sac fly intentionally and you scored that run, to someone who really knows the strategy of the game, they would look at that and they would go, that's a great player, someone who has the skill and the consistency to be able to do that on command, to do that at will, and sacrifice his own ability to get on base so that the team can score. You have to look at those things and decide that uh, the decision that you're making now, that to most people is going to seem like a counterintuitive, defeating kind of choice, really serves your long game better. And that's the great thing about knowing that this is not your only opportunity to be at bat. This at bat is going to have an effect on the next one that you get. It's going to affect your ability to be able to get to that next at bat. And over the course of the game, you're going to get several of those at bats where you're going to get more chances for more different kinds of pitches, for more different kinds of outcomes. You'll get another opportunity to hit a home run. You may get an opportunity to hit a grand slam. You might just get an opportunity to get a great base hit that drives in another run, but you're going to get another opportunity. And that's the wonderful thing about thinking of all of this as a much longer game. And in thinking more in that long tail, that gets you into a mode where you understand, if we're using baseball as an analogy, there's more than one game. A lot of people get wrapped up in this idea that this is all there is. Whatever I'm doing now, whatever process I'm in now, wherever I'm headed now is all that there is to this. But just in baseball, one game isn't the entire thing. You don't play one game and by that one win or that one loss determine everything about the record of your team or your record as a player. That one game is just a chapter in a much longer game. And when we line up a bunch of those games, we have an entire season. And in your life, you're going to have a bunch of seasons. You're going to have good seasons. You're going to have bad seasons. Right now, 2020 has been a really rough season for most people. But it's not the end. 2020 is not the only World Series ever in the game of life. 2020 is just another season of this game that we're playing. And, if you strung a lot of successful games into your season, then you get a chance at a World Series. Yeah. And that's ultimately what everybody in baseball is looking for. They're looking for that World Series win. But there are plenty of successful baseball players that have never been in the World Series or had a World Series win. Just like there's plenty of football players that have never won the Super Bowl. Plenty of basketball players who are amazing, or were amazing basketball players that will never win a national title. That's not really the measure of whether or not you're successful as a player or whether you've made great choices in your career. It's just one World Series out of many that you'll have the chance to try and reach. And so if you string enough of these games together, you get a successful season. If that season is successful enough, you get the chance at a World Series title. If you win that World Series, that's not the end. I mean, any baseball player will definitely tell you that winning that World Series title and getting that ring and then get that trophy, that's not the end of your career. That's just the end of this season. And your goal is to stack as many of these seasons as you can. You get a whole long string of seasons, and that's what makes your career. Just like in life, it's these different seasons of your life, these different seasons of your business. Over time, you may become more than just a guitar player. You may get into being an audio engineer and then get into being a producer and then getting into being something else that's also a part of the thing that you're doing, which is your larger career. You get these seasons. I'm moving into a season, it feels like now, where I'll probably focus less on the studio and more on being a live gig musician at a much higher level. That's part of the season of life that it feels like I'm moving into and I'm moving back into, which is live performance, which is weird at 48, almost 49 years old to think that I'm putting more emphasis on live performance than I have the studio because it's been such a successful the studio part of my career has been so successful for season after season after season that it's almost like, Michael Jordan going from basketball to baseball. It was what it feels like to me. It wasn't really successful for him. Hopefully, live music will be going back into being even more of a live performer will be more successful for me. But the thing that I realize is that it's the seasons that not the World Series or the World Series wins. It's all that string of seasons, both successful and unsuccessful, that lead to a Hall of Fame. There are a lot of Hall of Famers. If we go back to that analogy of at-bats, there's a lot of people in the Hall of Fame baseball players that have 350 batting averages. Well, what does that mean? That means that 2/3 of the time they were very unsuccessful at their role in the batter's box. A full 2/3 of the time. There's some that have even lower batting averages, but someone with a 325 or a 350 batting average that's a Hall of Famer. It's weird to think that you can screw up twice and be successful once out of 3 possibilities, 3 chances, and end up in the Hall of Fame. But that's the truth of it. There's no one that bats 1,000. There's no one I know of that has batted 900. You're gonna have your wins and your losses in that batter's box, just as you're gonna have wins and losses in a game, just as you're gonna have cumulative wins and losses in your seasons. It's not always going to swing the way you think it does, and success is a weird thing. We tend to think of successful people as always being successful, being serially successful, and most people that I know that are incredibly successful probably have more failures than they have successes. They've just had the right successes at the right time with the right impact. Yeah, John Packer says it's about what you do with that 1 out of 3. It really is. It's when you make that connection of that ball to that bat, and that ball goes out into the field. It's what happens at that point that is a large determining factor. Now, there's some players that are in the Hall of Fame, and this is the other thing I took away from me after talking with my son. There's players in the Hall of Fame that have really horrible batting averages. There's some that I would dare say have under 300 in their batting average. But the reason that they're in the Hall of Fame is it's not just their hitting that makes them a successful Hall of Famer. There's other skills. There's other areas of the game where they were incredibly good. Maybe, pitchers are notorious for being horrible hitters. So there are a lot of pitchers in the Hall of Fame that, depending on which league you ended up in and whether or not you had a designated hitter for most of your career, you probably have a horrible batting average, but your pitching average is amazing. There are guys who that hold records for things like stealing bases. They're an amazing base runner. Maybe they're above average with some of their other skills, and that's part of the reason. Above average for a professional player. That's part of what got them into the major leagues. But there's some other skill that they have. Maybe they got an incredible ability to catch balls. They're amazing shortstops that make these death-defying almost plays where it's almost like the ball is magnetized to their glove. They're guys that are amazing first basemen that, they're average hitters, but there's something about the way that they play first base. There's some players that were above average in a lot of different areas, but they were incredible leaders, and that's what got them to the point in their career where they were at. So there's a whole host of other skills besides just the at-bat that are going to determine your success. So while you're working on that batting cage, on those things that you need to be able to swing and connect with the ball, realize that playing the game requires more than just hitting the ball. There's all these other things. If you think of life in totality, part of being successful probably includes trying to be not only successful in your business, and that's where your at-bats are, but part of being successful in life is maybe trying to be a successful husband or wife. We all strike out. Gee whiz. I've definitely struck out when it comes to that. But over the long haul, if you're playing a winning game, trying to be a good husband, a good wife, a good friend, and trying to be consistent with those things, you're going to strike out on those things as well. But if you're playing the longer game, and the game we're talking about is success in life, then it's more than just your ability to create a successful product, or more than just your ability to play a great drum part. It's all of these things, and there's so many stories, we've all got them, of areas of our life where we're deficient, and we're all guilty of maybe trading something for that one special ability that we have. But if we're looking at the game of life, the idea is, let's try and shore up all of it together as much as we possibly can. And there's some things that I don't know how to do very well because I've spent a lot more time trying to learn to play drums. I either have to learn to pick those things up, and I'm a horrible cook, and thankfully I made the better choice of, of marrying a good cook instead of learning how to cook. We find ways to compensate. But it takes more than just your skill to hit to be a great Hall of Fame baseball player. There's a lot more involved in the game, and it sort of brings me to this last idea that I keep driving home, and that there's always going to be another at bat. There's always going to be another game. There's always going to be another season. There's always going to be another World Series until there's not. Until that time when that chapter of your life closes entirely. Maybe there's, depending on what you do, if you're an athlete, there's a shelf life on your ability to be an active player. Depending on the sport, depending on your position, that age is it's gonna differ from person to person, but eventually you won't be a baseball player anymore. You may turn into a coach. You may own a successful string of car dealerships. There's any number of things that will happen, but realize that there's always going to be another chance until there's not. And then if we're talking about seasons of life, maybe you move into a season where you're doing something completely different. Maybe the pandemic has taken you into a place where you're not, if you're a musician, maybe you're not going to play music anymore. And that's perfectly fine. It doesn't mean that you're an utter failure. It means that you're moving into a different season of your life, and you're going to play a different game for a while. You're going to utilize different skills. You're going to have successes in different areas. You are Michael Jordan, and you're going to move into golf, and you're going to move into a different sport, and you're going to bring that level of excellence and that level of commitment to this other thing that you're doing. And odds are, if you can bring excellence, if you can bring commitment, if you can put all of yourself into it and really do your absolute best, you're going to be successful in whatever that thing is as well. You're going to bring those skills that you learned in this other area forward into this new season of your life. And you're going to have plenty of at-bats in that new season of whatever that thing is that you're doing until you don't anymore. And I tell my kid this all the time, that you can't hold all of these at-bats as incredibly precious. You hold the process precious. You can't hold the at-bat or the result of that at-bat as a precious thing, because there's going to be plenty more of them until there aren't. And one day, it sounds a little macabre to think of in such a joyful holiday time, but there will be a day when you have no more at-bats. And until that day comes, all of possibility is open to you. And you just keep putting that excellence, putting that commitment, putting all of yourself into whatever it is that you're preparing for, whatever thing it is that you're going to come to at bat for, until you don't have that ability anymore and you're no longer here to do it. And ultimately, that's when when you're able to take the totality of all the things that you've done, all of those at bats, all of those games, all of those seasons, all of those facets of career that become your life, and then you can, for that brief moment between here and not here, where you get to sort of evaluate, did I get it done or did I miss something? And then we're on to whatever the next great adventure is. So, hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully you got some encouragement. Hopefully I helped take a little bit of pressure off of this for you, because you're going to get another at bat. You're going to get another game. You're going to get another season. It's up to you what you do in this moment to make sure that you get more chances. So I would just encourage you to put everything you got into whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's something to do with your career, something to do with your creativity, something to do with your family and your relationships. Make 2020 your opportunity to create as many at-bats as you can for yourself in as many different areas as you can, so that you can feel what that feels like to be in that batter's box and to see the cumulative effect of all these at-bats over and over and over again. That's when you're active in your life. And being successful in life is really about being active with your life, not being passive, not just taking what the world gives to you, not what it hands to you, not what it foists upon you. But it's what you do with the time and the energy and the resource and the abilities that you've got in this moment, and how you react to those things that life will throw at you. So hopefully you got something out of that. I definitely felt the warmth of the fire today, and I really appreciate your warmth and your love and your support through this entire year. Please know that all that goes out from me to you as well. And I really appreciate you. We're going to have a great year in 2021 because we're both active, and we're taking an active role in our ability to succeed at whatever we set our hand to. So that's all I got for you. I certainly appreciate you. And if you left a comment, Jason, John, anybody that's left a comment, a thumbs up, a heart, any of that stuff, I appreciate you. And I'll see you again next week. We're going to do something real cool with Session Ace next week that I'll tell you about when we do it. We're going to do some cool things in 2021, and I look forward to seeing how many at-bats you take. And until next time, I guess I will see you when I see you.